Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to the channel by ByMWu. I'm ByMWu, aka Marianne, and today we have episode 26 of the knitting podcast that we host here. It's a little space on the internet where I share all things crafty, primarily knitting. Today is going to be a very heavy knitting focused episode. I have 4 finished objects, 3 works in progress, and a couple fun yarn acquisitions. It should be a pretty fun jam-packed episode, so grab something fun to work on. And before we jump in, I just want to mention, I'm still trying to figure out what I want the background of my podcasts to look like. It is relatively the same background as last time, but a little bit like zoomed out so you guys can see a little bit more. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I don't like it. I haven't decided. We're just kind of playing around, so I hope you're okay with the kind of everywhere-ness. But yeah. Without further ado, let's jump in because there's going to be a lot to talk about. I've been on a project finishing kick. I had a couple projects that were works in progress in the last episode that have now been finished objects. I picked up a couple projects that went on hold who knows how long ago that are now done. But before we jump in, we'll talk about my most recent one, and this is the Maggie tee. Now, you might have seen a version of this before, and then it went on hold, and then I ripped it all back. So this is essentially a new project that you've never seen, but you have seen the yarn before. But this is the Maggie tee. I've been calling it that. It's actually a t-shirt version of the Maggie Cardigan by PetiteKnit. I was between doing the Maggie Cardigan or the Poppy tee, both of which have very similar elements in the sense that they have very classic looking constructions with the set-in sleeves and then the kind of shoulder pickup lines on the back. I don't actually know what this construction is called. I think it's just a set-in sleeve construction, but I think you can also do it for drop shoulders. But basically it's the one where you do the back yoke like triangle trapezoid first, you pick up shoulder stitches, and then you do the front kind of starting yoke, and then you either join them together if you're doing like in the round, or you knit back and forth. And so I wanted to do the Poppy tee actually, but then when I was comparing the Poppy tee with the Maggie Cardigan, they looked very similar to me in terms of construction. I'm pretty sure they even have the same gauge. So I just was like, okay, I'm gonna get the Maggie Cardigan and then just knit a t-shirt version of it instead of knitting it as a cardigan, because I think hacking a t-shirt into a cardigan, in my opinion, would be more difficult. So that's the option that I went. I now call this my Maggie tee because it's based off the Maggie Cardigan, but it's a t-shirt. I hope that all makes sense. I basically followed the pattern exactly as specified for, I think I made size small, maybe extra small, the second smallest size of the pattern. And the only change that I did was, instead of knitting it back and forth flat like you would for a cardigan, I joined at the front bit. I think I did 20 stitches if you want to make a version, and then I just knitted in the round. So I had such a great time knitting this. It literally flew off the needles. I just decided to one day pick it up again. And what I mean by again is I was going to self-draft a version basically like the Poppy tee, and I started it a while ago and my gauge was a little off, and I was kind of having to deal with the fact that this was hand-dyed yarn and have to alternate skeins so I didn't get pooling, and it was too much for my brain at the time, so I put it aside, and then I took it out maybe 2 weeks ago, ripped back all the stuff that I worked up, and then casted this on, and then maybe a week later, I kid you not, this existed. This yarn, because I had previously used it, you might have seen, this is the Lab Fibers Smooth Sport in Speckled Ash. Try saying that 10 times fast. And it's a glorious superwash merino silk 50-50 blend. So it's really nice for the summer. It's got a lot of stretch from the merino, but it's still really comfortable because of the silk. It's really soft. It's a wonderful yarn. I actually, fun fact, picked this up when I was in Knit City, Toronto. And by picked up, I mean I ordered it at the vendor booth. And then I actually had to pick it up locally because this is a local hand dyer to me. And by local, I mean maybe 30 minutes away. She lives in Ottawa. She is an amazing person. I cannot for the life of me remember her name. I'm not even gonna try, but she was lovely. And the yarn is beautiful to work up with. It is this off-white, as you can see, with brown and ever so slight feints of color specks. I can see a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, reddish orange. It's really subtle, and it knits up this really beautiful fabric that is a little bit of fun because of the speckles, but very, very wearable. And it's definitely a true off-white. I don't really like wearing white, but I like this color. If you do decide to order this, on her website, I find that her photo of this yarn is very yellow skewing, and I don't know if that's the lighting or if it's my computer monitors or whatnot, but if I was to see that online, I don't think I would have ordered it. But seeing it in person, it's a really beautiful color and it's very versatile and I adore it. So I highly recommend. It was really nice to knit up with. Like I said, it was slightly stretchy. And it's because it's superwash merino and silk, it's super smooth. Excuse me. I don't usually like superwash very much, but this one is one that I really like. I knit this on 3.5 millimeter needles. The Maggie Cardigan t-shirt hacked version is a very straightforward pattern. The design, like I was mentioning earlier, is very clean. The shoulder pickup lines are very smooth. The only trouble that I had with it was the fact that I was knitting 3 skeins at a time in an alternating fashion. And so yarn management was a bit annoying from that perspective. But once you go into the round, I did helical knitting and it was glorious. And I have nothing but good things to say about the finished object. I love it. I did think it was going to be too short, but it blocked into this really drapey fabric after blocking and I adore it. I wore it yesterday. I'm wearing it today. I probably will wear it a bunch. It's gonna get a little hotter and I think the merino is just ever so slightly too much for the hot weather. So I'll probably have to pull it back a little bit over the next couple days, but when I can, I will be wearing it because it's just such a versatile t-shirt. One comment that I will make about the pattern that I don't know if it's a pattern thing or the fact that I hacked a cardigan into a t-shirt or just the way it fits is that I find that there's a lot of fabric under the armpit. You do a couple raglan increases underneath the armpit to kind of, I guess, increase this fabric area, and in turn you get a little bit of extra fabric. It's not the end of the world. I actually find it's probably a good thing for the fact that this is a t-shirt, because if you're sweaty and you have sweaty armpits, it doesn't sweat directly onto the fabric. But I did notice that there's just ever so slight amount more of fabric underneath my armpits than I think I would have preferred. That said, I don't think I would actually change anything if I was to knit this again, because it's not enough that I actually care about. And it's not enough that I want to put brain power into figuring out how to get rid of it. So that's my Maggie tee. I definitely will be making more of this pattern as a cardigan. I have plans already to make both a red cardigan as well as just a plain cream cardigan to throw on with any kind of outfit. So you'll be seeing those sometime in the future. I don't know when I'll cast them on, but this pattern was lovely. And I totally forgot how quick warmer weather garments can be, assuming it's not a dress, and we'll talk about a dress warm weather garment in a bit because that one was a long project. But t-shirts and tank tops, because you don't have to do the full sleeve, are so nice. Once the body's done, you're basically home free. I find that sleeve island on t-shirts is not as bad. I definitely like t-shirt tank top knitting. However, I have been finding that I'm in a very big sweater mood this past season. So I think this is my first summer garment, if we're excluding the summer dress that I will show you later on in this podcast, which is a little crazy because I feel usually I'm more into knitting seasonally. But yeah, something about sweater knitting has just still been hitting the spot. And I don't find it too bad to knit merino wool, alpaca, silk, mohair, any of that stuff. Sorry, not silk, but mohair in the warmer weather. I know some people really don't like it, but I don't mind. So yeah. Last that I will mention is that this was also a really nice treat because it has the merino. I've been doing a lot of more textured chunky yarn knitting as well as silk, all of which make beautiful garments but are very hard on my tension finger. And so working on this in between all those projects was just such a breath of fresh air because the elasticity just was such a comfortable knitting process. I don't think I can ever underestimate how nice it is to just knit merino or a smoother wool-ish based yarn. It just really is the ultimate knitting experience in my opinion. So that was what I'm wearing today / finished object number 1. Let's talk about the next one. So the next one here is one that will probably come as a surprise. I don't think anybody will guess what it is if you haven't seen me already tease it on Instagram, but it is my souffle. Does anybody remember this? Because I started this, I want to say last, maybe August, September sometime. And the plan was to knit it for the Eras tour and wear it to that. But I realized partway through that I wasn't going to have enough to knit a long sleeve version. And so I put it on hold, and then it's been on hold ever since. And as I was saying, I was kind of in a project finishing mood. I just wanted like a quick win. And so I pulled this out, and I kid you not, I finished this within maybe 3 hours because all I had to do was the sleeves, and the sleeves weren't even very long. And then I just blocked it. I even had like all the I-cord and everything done. So it was like very minimal work. And therefore, this is your sign if you have a project that's just on the cusp of being finished, just pull it out and finish it, because it's just such a hit of dopamine when you finally cross one off your list and you don't have that like work in progress ghost hanging out in the background. But yeah, this is the Soufflé by Laura Penrose. I believe this is the original garment of her Soufflé collection. She has a bunch. I've knit the summer Soufflé twice already, and I adore that pattern. She also has a chunky version, and I believe she has like a kid or junior version as well. But this is the original one where it's in a mohair. The top section here in the yoke is a single strand of mohair, and then the bottom is mohair held double. You have this nice folded edge, as well as this beautiful like little key detail with a button. And it has some I-cord and this beautiful frill, which is like the key aspect of the soufflés. This is a circular yoke construction, as the same as I believe the other patterns. And it's just whimsical and flowy and girly. And mine is knit in Sandnes Garn Tynn silk mohair in the color, I want to say like dusty pink. I don't remember the actual code. It'll be in the description below if you're interested. This is what it looks like. It's quite a bit boxier. I don't know if it actually is the size that it's supposed to be. I will say I'm not really good at referencing if like the construction size that is advertised is the size that I actually get. I just kind of knit stuff up, block it, and if it fits, it fits. If it isn't perfect to what the pattern says, I don't really care. So I don't know. This feels a little bit bigger than what it's supposed to be though. And I will be honest, I have mixed feelings about it. One, I wasn't sure about the color. It's grown on me, this like light pink, but I still don't know if it's like my favorite kind of pink. If you guys remember my summer soufflé, I don't know if you can see it. It's like over here, or this like dusty, darker pink in this section. I like that kind of darker rougey pink more versus like this lighter pink. I have toyed with the idea of dyeing it. I haven't decided if I'm gonna follow through with that. It's an okay color. It's not my most favorite color. And then I find that despite that it's circular yoke, it doesn't fit the way I want it to. And I don't know if that's the pattern or if I don't know if that's my body shape or whatnot. It's like not the end of the world, but it just isn't as cute as I thought it was going to be. I think part of it is that the sleeves are quite big, like wide, and so you kind of get a lot of volume up here, but it's like doesn't feel like it's intentional volume. I'm not a huge fan of like the sheer like all over yoke. I find that it's difficult to wear a bra with, and I think I mentioned this like a couple podcasts ago, like a while back when I was working on it, about what bra do you wear, and some people were like, oh, just wear a nude bra. And you can, but because bras are typically like have like a triangle shape, you kind of get the corner sticking up, which is not the end of the world, and you can't really see it if it's nude. But also, I don't know, I don't really like it. If you wear a tank top under it, then you can see the tank top. I just find it very difficult to wear. Will I wear it? Probably. Will I love it? Hard to say. And I also find that the frill on this one doesn't hit as hard as the frill on my summer soufflé. So I think just in comparison, it's still a lovely garment, and it was a really lovely knitting process. I think just overall, I like the fit and the shape and the weight and just the look overall and the color even of my summer soufflé. So then making this one, it didn't hit the exact spot that I was expecting. It's still a really nice garment, and a bunch of people who have knit it, because I was looking through the project page, they look gorgeous in it. So it might just be my body shape and like the way that this fits. I will also note that this doesn't have short row shaping, if I'm not mistaken. I can't 100% remember because I would have done that like months and months ago, but I remember at the time knitting it and like contemplating if I should add it in, but then opting not to because I was looking at the photos and it seemed fine. It fits fine overall, but I think like it's not suffocating. Sometimes like when you make a garment and it doesn't have sharp row shaping, the front is like really pushing up against your neck. You don't have that with this one, but I just feel like something's a little off because I guess it's just like a full circle just like sitting on you. I don't know. That sounds really negative. I do still like it as a pattern, and I still would recommend it if it's something you're looking at or you like the pattern very much. I think just in contrast to other souffles that I make, I've liked my other souffles better. And you know that I like circular yoke, so it might just be the general like shape. And again, maybe it is a little too big for me. I don't know, but I'm glad that it's off my needles. I'm gonna save the biggest finished object for last. But we're gonna talk about this one, which was in the last podcast episode. I don't remember where I was at. I wanna say it was like on the body, but honestly, I don't remember. But it's my Clematis sweater. Do you remember this? This is the Clematis Sweater Chunky. It's actually a test knit for Emma that features this diagonal button band. It goes from the top right to the bottom left. And this is the, like I said, chunky version. She has a DK weight version that already exists. And I believe she has a vest version as well. This is basically the exact version of the sample that she knit. I think it's a size smaller, but it's in the same sample yarn, same buttons. And this yarn, what is it called? It is called Emma.Knits Pure Tweed in the color, I wanna say like multicolored Scottish border or something. It's this all over tweedy yarn. I mentioned in my last episode that when I got it, it was leaning a little bit more pink. I thought it was gonna be off-white with a bunch of speckles. It definitely has a pink hue to it, so keep that in mind if you're interested. This pure tweed comes in a bunch of amazing colors. There's this really gorgeous dark gray with tweed specks in it that would also be really pretty as a clematis tee or just like in general. I've also pretty sure that Isigar Aran tweed is like the same weight. So if you can't get a hold of the Erica Knight, you probably could use the Isigar Aran tweed as an alternative. And then it's held with a strand of mohair. Specifically, I use the Kremkel Kid Silk mohair in the undyed color, but I'm pretty sure it's just like a standard mohair weight. It's, I believe, 212 meters for 50 grams or so. So any mohair would work, but it creates this really beautiful, cozy, thick, fuzzy sweater. It's way too hot for this. Honestly, looking at it makes me sweat because it's like an Aran weight sweater and it is like 35 degrees outside right now. I did get a moment with it a couple days ago because it was 11 degrees in the morning. We had a cold morning and I pulled it out and it was so nice. If you are someone who is sensitive to any amount of scratchiness, I would not recommend this yarn combination. It blocked quite soft, but it definitely has a mohair feel, 100%. So if you don't like mohair, not for you. But then also the Aran tweed is, the pure tweed. Oh, so many tweedy names. The pure tweed is definitely a more rustic leaning yarn. It's not scratchy, I don't think, or at least that wouldn't be my default term, but it definitely has a lot of toothy texture to it that could irritate the skin. I'm really happy with how it turned out. The test knit was really nice. The pattern was really well written. It should be out by the time this video comes out, if not very shortly thereafter. If you're eyeing this project, definitely keep a lookout for that. If you think that the Aran version is going to be too much, check out the DK weight version. A lot of people made beautiful ones of those. I actually originally had planned on making the DK weight version, and then Emma made this test call. And so I applied for this test call and not this one. I think I still might make the DK weight version. I just think it's so cute and it's such a fun like garment to make that you wouldn't really find on like the stores. Like you wouldn't go out and buy it because it's just like a little unique and probably a little annoying to make if you were to machine make it, in my opinion, because you're constantly increasing. But before I drop it, I want to give a moment for the buttons. Can you see that button? It is so cute. So these buttons are ceramic. They were the recommended button by Emma. They're made by, I believe, her name is Mirror Gym. I think her full Instagram handle is like Mirror Gym Fables Ceramic, something along those lines. I'll insert the name on the screen here. She is a ceramic, are they called sculptor. No, not maybe not sculptor. She's a ceramic creator. I don't know what the term is. Based in Barcelona, and custom made these for the Clematis. She even had a little cute like tag where the buttons came on that had the little Clematis sweater on it. It was so cute. But they match this perfectly. They have this like shiny but like blue and red speckles. Oh, it's so beautiful. I think they match the sweater so much and they definitely complete it. This is my first time having ceramic buttons. I've been told that they're okay to put in the wash or like hand wash and stuff like that. But they definitely add like a really cool texture that juxtaposes the like fuzziness of the yarn that I really, really like. So yeah, they're beautiful. I definitely wanted to give them a moment to shine because I think in the last podcast episode I hadn't had them yet and I was really looking forward to them and I was waiting for them very patiently. And then one day I opened the mailbox and they were there and I was so excited. So yeah, and I just threaded them on with a little bit of like scrap yarn that I had. It's kind of blue. It doesn't totally fit, but because there's so many colors, I think it's okay. So yeah, this is the Clematis sweater. I can't wait to wear it in the fall time. I am so excited for the fall. I don't even like the fall. To be honest, autumn is my least favorite season, but just waiting for the colder weather is making me so excited. And I can't wait for winter. I love the winter, especially when it's cold and really snowy and to wear all the knits that we have. It's just so wonderful. So yeah, excited about this. I'm kind of sad that I can't wear it yet, but soon, hopefully soon. Last but not least, from the finished object category, I have one that has been a work in progress, what feels like for forever. Thinking about it now, it's only been like maybe 2 or 3 months, but I don't know, it feels like way longer than that. I have to unfold it. But that is the girl dress. Ooh. She's gonna be hard to show, so I'll insert some photos of me because I just took some photos yesterday. But oh my goodness, my second summer dress is done and I'm so thrilled with it. If you guys don't know, which I would be surprised because I feel like I'm a fangirl of hers, I love Iness's designs. She is also known as Vert Knit on Instagram. She is the designer of the Miladi's dress, the matcha jumper. She has made a bunch of other beautiful tops. I've had such a fortunate experience of test knitting for her for 3 times. I've done the Miladi's dress, which I did last summer. I did the matcha jumper earlier this year, and then this is my 3rd test knit for her, which is the girl dress. And I love all the stuff that she makes. I love the way she writes her patterns. I love the finished garments. And this one is definitely no exception. So this is the girl dress. She said it was inspired by like 90s, like very spaghetti strappy, flowy dresses. And I believe she knit it actually as an engagement photo dress for her own engagement photos. And then she made a pattern of it. The original version has this really big open back and these really dainty spaghetti straps. And I'll talk about it more in a little bit, did a modification where it has a little bit more back coverage. But this is an all over show-stopping, but yet still very wearable, surprisingly, flowy A-line dress. It's knit in Knitting for Olive pure silk. My version, and I believe this is the sample color too, was knit in deep petroleum blue. I will note that the yarn was kindly discounted from Knitting for Olive for this test knit, and it is a beautiful drapey fabric. I have a love-hate relationship with pure silk, and I've talked about it a bunch, but in short, I find it very hard to work with. Originally, I didn't think it's too bad. If you do anything like t-shirt and smaller, I think it's okay. But once you start getting into like the thousands of stitches like the skirt is, it becomes a lot, at least for me personally. I found that I needed to take a lot of breaks to give my tension finger some rest. And it probably didn't help that I was also working on the Clematis sweater as well as another project, which is also a really like kind of textured yarn. So my index finger was getting just like a lot of tension constantly on it. And so it's a lot of work, but I still love the end product and I do think it's very worth it. This is just definitely not a yarn that you want to like power through because I find it very just like stressful to work with on the hands. It itself makes this really beautiful, like smooth, drapey fabric. I don't think photos show it well, but can you see that drape? It's gorgeous. But yeah, so this design is actually quite a straightforward design. It's really hard because it's like really long. So the key element of it is that it has a really deep plunging V, really small spaghetti straps, and this long flowy skirt. You start with the bodice pieces, which are basically giant triangles. And the original version, like I said, has an open back. So you only knit 2 of them, and then you knit the waistband, and then you just have endless rounds of stockinette. The modification that can add a little bit more coverage, which is what I opted to do, is you make 2 more of those bodice pieces and you have them in on the back. I'll insert a photo of the back look of this, but it's basically a replica of the front with the backs tucked in. So you have this like beautiful, nice like coverage on the sides. And in turn, you have a lot shorter straps. Mine are about maybe like, I want to say like 12 centimeters or so, versus like the really long ones that go all the way to the waistline. The dress is primarily cinched in and kind of held up by an elastic. So in this middle section waist area, it's actually double knit and you thread a elastic in at the very end. I will say, I don't know if this is the problem that I had or other people had, but you can kind of see it if you look closely. You see that like white underneath, that is the elastic in there. It doesn't bother me, but it's definitely something that I noticed. And then like I said, the bottom is just this flowy A-line skirt. It is gorgeous. It fits really nicely. It feels so wonderful. I think it will be really nice even like underneath a white t-shirt, which is probably how I will wear it, just like casually. White t-shirt with this and sneakers just sounds really cute, but you could also dress it up and wear it to like maybe like a baby shower or a bridal shower or something. It's just a beautiful dress. Now, in comparison to the Miletus dress, a couple things to note. So they are the same gauge. I did notice, and then I think I made this warning last time, that gauge changes because I think I knit my Miletus dress on 2.75 millimeter needles. This one was knit on 3 millimeter needles. So a warning to always check your gauge, just FYI, because I got the same stitch gauge on 2 different needle sizes at 2 different time points. So just warning kind of, but also just explaining. So they are on the same gauge. I believe it's 26 stitches. They have definitely very different looks. So while they're both summer dresses, this one's more like elegant and wow, whereas I feel like the other one, the ladies dress, is definitely more wearable. It has thicker straps. It has both a V and a back. And I think the buttons, while very elegant, lean a little bit more casual. The biggest difference is the overall fit. So the girl dress is made in the standard sizing. I think Ines does like 16 sizings or so. And so you pick the one that is closest to your bust size, and that's the one you make. For reference, if you're curious, I made size 2 and I have a bust of about like 81 centimeters or so. It's a little roomy up there. I definitely need to wear like a sticky bra to have anything, or else I'm just like flat on the front. But that's a me problem. With the Miletus dress, you have an interesting knitting experience where you kind of tailor it to your size. So it comes with standard sizing, but then she provides different ways to kind of like alternate. So if you're like off by an inch by like the standard size, she'll tell you how to adjust for that. So the goal of the Miletus dress is to have 0 ease from top to bottom minus the like skirt part, whereas this dress is kind of just standard sizes. And then I think that the elastic does a lot of the heavy lifting to make it look like it fits like form-fittingly, because the elastic is what will cinch it in at the waist. It will also make sure that the straps don't get stretched out because it like kind of holds the skirt up, and there's a lot of fabric in the skirt. So those are some elements to keep in mind. If I was to only make one, I probably would make the Miletus dress again versus this one, just because I think it's a little bit more wearable for my personal preference, but they're both really lovely to have, and I'm so excited that I have both of them. And I just had a wonderful knitting time. The test knit was wonderful. The girls were also supportive. The project itself was relatively smooth sailing, and while it looks very daunting, I really want to highlight that it's quite straightforward. If you can knit flat in the round and do standard increasing, you can do this one. The Miletus dress requires a little bit more math, so if you don't want to do like math and calculations, I would probably go for this one first. But overall, I would actually say that this experience was a lot easier than the Miletus dress. The knitting experience was also a lot nicer because besides the bodice pieces, which are smaller, the rest of it is knit in the round, and knitting in the round is a lot more comfortable in my experience than knitting back and forth, and you don't have to worry about tension as much because some people purl at a different tension than they knit. Just like things to keep in mind. So From a knitting perspective, this dress, while it looks more complicated, I think is a lot more straightforward and definitely less steps. It was very long in terms of the amount of knitting for the skirt, because as you work down, you're doing increases, so you're increasing the number of stitches as you go down, and each row takes like longer and longer and longer. But the actual like mental development and figuring out the structure of it and stuff like that, this dress is a lot easier. I would definitely recommend both patterns. I'd recommend any of the Nest patterns. I actually love them all. You guys know I've already made the matcha jumper twice. I will probably be making another matcha jumper. I've convinced my sister to make a Miladi's dress. I showed her this photo when I finished it of me wearing it. She's like, now I want to make one. So yeah, Nest's just like brain designing is just perfect. I will forever fangirl over her because she is just amazing, and I'm so happy to have this and be able to wear it before the summer ends, because I finished my Miladi's dress last year at the end of August, and then we were gone for September because I went to Japan, and then by the time I got back it was too cold. So the fact that I finished this at the beginning of August means I have some time to wear it, and I don't know where I'll wear it. Maybe I'll just frolic around the streets in it because it's too beautiful not to wear, but I'm so thrilled with how it turned out. So yeah, that's the girl dress. I am honestly a little bittersweet about it coming to an end because I just feel like it's been like a long-term passion project. It's been something that has just been in the background. I've been carrying it like everywhere for the last couple of months. And so to have that done just kind of feels like really nice, but also kind of sad because it's such a long, fun term project. In terms of when this pattern will be coming out, it should be coming out in the next couple weeks. As of filming, the test knit should be ending end of this week, and I believe Inessa's turnaround after releasing should be fairly soon after. So if you're interested in this one, definitely keep your eyes peeled. It should be coming out soon. What else? Oh, I will say some people did some lace backs. So my back panels is just the traditional modification that's mentioned in the pattern. Obviously, if you don't want to have that kind of style, you can change it up. Some people in the test knit group, they did lace ones. Some people just did the standard like open back. There's also been conversations about keeping the ties loose so you can make it a halter if you'd want. People have done that kind of modification. So if you're also curious and seeing different options, definitely look at the Ravelry project pages when they come out, because the test knitter group was amazing and did a whole bunch of different variations. If you're curious about the specific modification that I did, I basically followed what was mentioned in the pattern. So that is the recommended back modification that Ines had envisioned. The only last mention that I will say that's different about mine versus the pattern is that my skirt is one repeat less. You'll see in photos that it hits me kind of midi length, so between like midway through the shin, and I really like the way that that looks. Moving on to works in progress. What should I talk about? I'll do an update of like kind of one that you guys saw last time. I'm in the middle of doing the cuff, so I have like needles everywhere. This one is the home shirt jacket by Camire Cutler. As you can see, it's very hard to show, but I did finish the body and I am now working on sleeve number 1. Honestly, it's kind of strange how like uneven and like schlumpy the shelter yarn looks. I really do think it's one of those like undergo transformation kind of yarns after a blocking, but this is basically an oversized shirt jacket, a shacket for lack of a better word, and I discovered this one actually by mistake. So the backstory about this one, and I explained it before, so if you don't care to hear it, you can skip forward a couple of seconds. But basically when Brooklyn Tweed made their announcement that they were discontinuing their yarn line, I really wanted to get my hands on some Shelter and some Loft. I think those two are their like most known yarns. They did make a couple other ones. And so I got my hands on this one, which is Shelter in the color Wood Smoke. And because I don't buy yarn typically unless I have a plan in mind, at least some sort of direction, I won't just like aimlessly buy yarn. I'll have either a vision that I want to make or a pattern specifically chosen for that yarn when I purchase it. I was looking through the project pages on Ravelry for Shelter, which there are a lot, and the home shirt jacket specifically caught my eye. Specifically, one person did a test knit for Camire, and she did it in the shelter, and I thought it looked beautiful. So I picked it up and I have been knitting it since. It's been a really wonderful knit, minus the fact of the friction of the yarn. But it's a shirt jacket that has saddle shoulder, a beautiful double folded collar, these long sleeves, and it's going to have like a split sleeve at the bottom with a cuff. I'm in the middle of doing the cuff right now. It will be a really nice like throw over whatever you're wearing in like the fall or like the cold summer nights. We haven't really been having much of those, but maybe some more in September, not sure. But yeah, it has a really beautiful curved hem, which is kind of rolled in the back right now. But again, I think it will benefit from some blocking. And it's just overall, I think a very practical garment. At least that's the direction that I'm going. The shelter is a very rustic yarn. It is woolen spun. If you don't know, traditional yarn that you see and you get your hand on is called worsted spun, which is different from worsted weight. Worsted spun is basically, they have all the like fibers lined up and then they spin them, and it creates this really smooth textured yarn. The ones that you can distinctly see like 4 strands twisted together is traditionally worsted spun yarn. Woolen spun yarn is they blow the fibers around and then they spin it together. So you have this more like airy, lofty yarn that holds air a lot better. I believe it's warmer because it has a better insulation value. And in turn, you have a little bit more of like a rustic, roughy feel. Shelter definitely is one of those weird yarns that had a cult following, but also a lot of people hate it. And I think it's okay. I don't think it's worth the money, if I'm being honest. I got in the hype when they said they discontinued and I really want to try it. I bought 2 sweaters quantity of Shelter and 2 sweaters quantity of Loft, which I know is a lot. They were a little on discount because it was being discontinued, but still, you can probably find similar or like adjacent yarns for a way better price. But nevertheless, it's been a really interesting experience. The thing about Brooklyn Tweed at the time was that they were very American production focused. So the sheep was raised in the US. They like harvested the yarn. Is that the right word? I don't know. That sounds kind of weird. Milled the yarn and dyed the yarn all in the US. And it shows you actually on the tag like what the production areas were, which is really cool. And it's a really, when I say rustic, I mean like there's vegetation in this yarn. Like you have to go through and literally pick out hay. It's definitely a very interesting knitting experience. It smells so woolly. It smells so good in my opinion. I know some people don't like it, but I love the smell of like rustic wool yarn. And I will say of the yarns, it's definitely less scratchy of a rustic yarn. It definitely still has a lot of texture and like grip to it. Stickiness is like maybe the right word. It like felts really well, but it probably still will irritate some people. I think once blocked, it will bloom really nicely and soften really nicely. And I've heard from people / read on Ravelry that the more you wear it, the nicer the fabric gets kind of yarn. I don't know how true that is, TBD, but I will keep you posted. It's still been an interesting knitting experience. I'm really thankful that I got the opportunity to use it. I am still excited to use it for like the other projects that I got it for. I am really curious the difference of Loft and Shelter. Shelter is their worsted weight version, Loft is their fingering weight. But there are times where like, cause it's woolen spun, it's not as consistent. There are some like really thin pieces in this worsted weight. So like, is it possible that like when you get to the fingering weight, like it's so thin that like it doesn't exist? I don't know. I'll have to see. But yeah, so this is the progress. Like I said, it's saddle shoulder. It's got a little bit of a satin sleeve, and then it's kind of oversized. I do retrospectively wish I made the collar just a little bit bigger. The sample one, I believe, has like a 1-inch collar, and then she changed it for the pattern to be a 3-inch one. I feel like it could probably benefit even more from being bigger, just given how oversized the actual garment will be at the end of the day, but we will see at the end. And then I'm excited to go get buttons for it because I need to figure out what buttons I want. Kind of thinking like a wood button would look really nice. But yeah. From a knitting perspective, the pattern's really well written. I don't have any complaints. I truly think it's just been a really smooth knitting experience pattern wise. The only thing that's been holding me up is that I have to take breaks from working with this yarn, and I don't like working on sleeves. So the fact that I even have one almost done is like pat on the shoulder for me, but I do need to figure out time to do the second sleeve. But once that's done, I'm excited to block it, and I really want this finish for the fall time because again, I think it would be nice to just throw it over like whatever outfit that I'm wearing as kind of like a jacket-like vibe. My sister got a shacket from Oak, which is like a Toronto crafts show, and it's felted. And when I showed her this one, I was like, oh, this kind of is like inspired by your jacket that you got. She's like, are you gonna felt it? And I was like, that would have been such a good idea, but I didn't account for felting shrinkage, and nor do I really want to felt this expensive of a yarn when I intentionally bought it for the yarn, so we won't think about that. But a felted version of this would be top notch in my opinion, I think, and it'd be so warm, it'd be so nice. That's the home shirt jacket. I hope next time it'll be done. I won't promise anything though. Next up is another one that hasn't showed up in the podcast for a while. I've realized in certain projects you get into a slump because there's something you don't like about it, and then once you get past that slump, it's easier to make progress. And that is especially true for this project. I don't know if you guys remember this one, but it's my Fika pullover, and by mine I mean Ryan's. So this is a beautiful cable knit all over pullover by Sari Nordlund. I casted this on at the beginning of the year. I don't remember exactly when, but it was the sweater that I was casting on for Ryan after I finished the halibut sweater, which I finished last December. And he actually chose this pattern. I had him go on Ravelry and pick out one that he liked, and he said he liked this all over cable kind of bougie looking one. And it hasn't made an appearance in the podcast in a couple months because I just wasn't making progress on it. To be honest with you, I had most of the yoke done. I was maybe like an inch or two away from finishing the yoke, and it has just been sitting on my nightside table for weeks, literal weeks. And I can explain the reason why, and it's just because I wasn't having a good time knitting it with that many stitches on 4mm needles using a worsted weight yarn, which this, by the way, is Zerarum Natura's Gilead, whatever it's called, in Pure Vert Blanc. Excuse me, my French is really bad. But it's a worsted weight on like a 4mm. And originally I was knitting it on bamboo, and there was just too much friction in terms of like just against the bamboo. And I was just not having a good time, and there was like too many stitches. But if I increased the cable length, then it was gonna get like unruly. So I was trying to manage it on the short one. But anyways, I was just having a really bad experience knitting it. And I finally pushed through and split for sleeves. And oh my goodness, it has been such a better experience on the smaller stitch circumference. And by smaller, I mean, there's still like a lot, but like I don't have to do the whole sleeve element anymore. Someone, when I had complained about it in a podcast, mentioned that metal needles work better for kind of like more textured yarn, and I totally agree. So I am now knitting these ones on metal needles. I don't think it changed my tension. If it does, too late. I'm not going back and changing it. The only comment is that I have ChiaoGoo metal needles. I usually use bamboo C-knit needles. Those are my normal ones. So I find that this textured yarn doesn't slide very well on the red cables. I guess the red cable has like this texture on the outside to make them kind of more grippy, and I feel like I'm always like fighting the needles. But a lot better once I split for sleeves. There's just a good amount of stitches for this needle length or cable length, and so I've been making a lot more progress. And as I mentioned, this is an all over cable. It starts from the top underneath the collar, and it just goes all the way down to the bottom of the pullover, and all of the sleeves are cabled. And while it looks very complicated, I want to assure you that it's really not. If you know how to cross stitches, you're golden. And whether you do that with or without a cable needle, it doesn't matter. As long as you know how to do that, it's just literally that all over. So it looks really fancy, but it is just a matter of like, you have 2 at the beginning and you work your way down to eventually, I think, having 10 or 12 stitches on the needle, like per cable twist. And it looks so cool. It reminds me right now in this stage of those like crinkly, like bubble shirts from the 90s. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Maybe 2000s. The ones that like are like one size fit most, where like you take it out of the closet and it's like this big, but then you like put it on and it stretches. I'm really excited to block it because I think the cable will just like look so much nicer blocked. It looks kind of cool now, but yeah, it looks like it almost won't even fit me. But this is size 3, and I've been having Ryan try it on because technically this is a female pattern, I believe, but I don't see any specific elements that make it 100% female. Like there's no bust shaping or anything. So I just made a higher or a larger size so that it would fit his shoulder / bust circumference. And every time he's tried it on, it's been really like cinched because of all the cables, but I think it will fit. And if it doesn't, I guess I'm getting another sweater. I feel like I had like so many thoughts in that sentence and I lost one of them. But I also just realized I did one of these twists wrong, so I need to put a marker on that so I can fix it later. Be right back. Okay, so yeah, circular yoke, all over cable, Sari Nordlund, yarn. Let's talk about the yarn. So the yarn, like I mentioned, is Durarium Natura's in their Gilead. It's their worsted weight. When I looked on Ravelry, it said it's a semi-woolen spun. I don't really know what that means. It definitely is like a dry yarn. I struggled with explaining this last time, but like, it's not scratchy. It's not itchy. It definitely has like friction. It's just really like stiff and dry, it feels like. This is my first time working with this yarn, and despite it giving me like part stitch management issues, it is a really nice yarn to work with. It's quite smooth. It's not soft, but it's very smooth as opposed to like the texture of the Brooklyn Tweed Shelter. Comes in a bunch of fun colors. I did notice that not all of Durarium Natura's colors are available in all of them, because their like Penelope line has a bunch of colors that is not available in some of the other lines. Just something I noticed. This is like a really beautiful gray beige off-white with a little bit of a brown undertone. Very wearable. Ryan chose this color because he wanted like an off-white plain simple sweater, and he's really interested. For the longest time, he would always kind of like take jabs at me being like, well, I would wear a sweater if I had a sweater, or like if we were like in bed and I was like working on a different project, he'd be like, but like what about that other project that's like over there? And so I've now been making progress on it, and he's really excited. He's, I think, more excited to see it in its actual shape, because once you split for sleeves, it's a lot more satisfying. What else do I have to say about this one? Oh, I think the thing that I was going to mention earlier was that if I finish this, this will be the first finished cable knit sweater that I've knit officially. I have started the Arctic Light sweater by Kika Kutava. Kutava Kika, I think is actually what it is. I always get it backwards. Also known as Veronica Lindberg is her official name. And I have that waiting still in my works in progress pile. Maybe I'll pull it out at some point, I don't know. But I'm looking at my like finished garments, and I have one other garment that looks like cables, but it's not actually. Otherwise, like it's like a combination of like lace and cables, or like it's not full cable. So if I finish this one, this will be my first officially finished cable sweater, which is kind of crazy because I love the way cabled and textured sweaters look. My favorite thing to knit is stockinette, so there's like a little bit of a contrast there. I will lastly mention why I have a bajillion stitch markers on the neck, and that's because I haven't decided if I want to do a folded collar or leave it as this like funnel. The sample one that Sari Nordlund had is like this funnel neck collar wise. Ryan said he might want a folded, so they're started the same way. So I figured I'd just like do it and then fold it at the end if that's what he ends up deciding. I have a bunch of stitch markers marking every 10 stitches on both the top of the collar as well as the base, because I am notoriously bad at stitching my collar down slanted if I don't. So that's why I have a bajillion and 1 stitch markers there. So we'll see how much more progress I make on it. Now that the body is just in the round, it's quite seamless. There's like a couple cables every once in a while, but more or less it's stockinette in the round with a couple purl stitches. So I'm sure I'll make more progress on this in the foreseeable future. I've already made way more progress than probably have in the last like 4 months, just because I'm finally split for sleeves and it is way easier to manage. Last work in progress to share is a new one. This one is a test knit. I actually wasn't planning on doing any more test knits for like the foreseeable future, but everybody just keeps putting out beautiful projects that I just can't help myself. And this one in particular, when she put it out, I had a yarn combination that I had in stash in mind that I was like, you know what, I'll justify it, because if I don't need to go buy more yarn to do a project and it will incentivize me to use some yarn that I have available, I'll apply, and I got it, thankfully. So this one is a new to me designer. I've never made any of her stuff before. I've seen her around on Instagram, and that is Celine Phaeton. Sorry, my notes are over here. She has this really beautiful colorwork sweater that I think I applied for a long time ago and didn't get, but nevertheless, she recently put out a test knit call for something called the Comfort Pullover, which is like a fuzzy all over stockinette. I love stockinette. Saddle shoulder. I love saddle shoulder. Pullover that has 2x2 ribbing on the bottom, a little bit of a curved hem, and a V-neck. And I thought it would be the perfect garment for my Sari lace by Sunday Fiber Co. that I picked up last year for my birthday. I swatched for it, and the gods are on my side because I hit gauge perfectly. This is what it looks like. It's in the very early stages, as you can see, and I will briefly give a moment for the yarn. So this is the Sari lace. This is, I don't actually remember what the combination is anymore. It is 74% baby Sari alpaca and 26% silk. At the time that I bought it, it was called Nimbus Sari. It's now called Sari lace, but I believe it's the same base. This is in the color Salt Water. This is a slightly heavier lace weight yarn. It is 300 meters for 50 grams. I think traditional lace weight leans more in the like 200 and, or wait, if I get more for less, or yeah, slightly heavier, because I get 300 meters for 50 grams versus the 212-ish meters for the 25 grams that a lot of like silk mohairs come in, like Knitting for Olive silk mohair, what is it called? Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, the Sandnes Garn Tynn silk mohair are all in the 212 meters in the 25 gram section. So this is slightly heavier. And because this alone wouldn't hit gauge and I didn't have enough to hold it double, I am holding it with a strand of Knitting for Olive merino in the color Putty, which I believe is discontinued now, but I heard that their limestone is very, very similar, if not the same, and Putty is a cool toned off-white. So I'm holding these two together and they are forming this beautiful blue color. This is so soft. Like, I honestly, I love it so much. It is so dreamy and soft, and I knew that the Sari lace was going to be soft, but then knitting it up with the merino is just like even softer. You can see it Jubin in the background. I have stuff all over the floor, so she's trying to get to the window. But she's like trying to figure out how to navigate towards that. This saddle shoulder construction was interesting. I'm very used to saddle shoulder being knit in a similar way as raglan, in the sense that you cast on all your stitches and then you increase in certain specific spots to create the saddle shoulder construction. This one was different, where she had you actually cast on and knit the two side panels individually, and then you knit them together with the rest of the like yoke stitches. So I don't know how it will look long term. The saddle is quite chunky from what I've seen, but I think it'll still look really nice. And I am doing alternating yarn skeins for this because it's a hand-dyed yarn. I am doing every 2 rows, I believe. And so far, I'm really, really happy with it. This light blue is giving me so much joy. It does really remind me of like the ocean, and I think she named it so beautifully. For those of you who don't know, she last year did like a color of the month where she was bringing back colors, and saltwater was the color for July, and July is my birthday month. So I bought some birthday yarn last year, and I've just been waiting for the right project to pick it up. I definitely knew I wanted like a fuzzy, all over plain, kind of curved edged sweater, and I was gonna self-draft one, but then when Celine made this test call, I was like, that is perfect. And the gauge hitting, like, I felt like was meant to be. So I'm really happy with this yarn combination. And the sweater, it's in early staging of test knitting. I think it's going till October. So this project, or this pattern, sorry, won't be out for a while. That being said, yeah, I'm really excited for it. I think it will be such a cozy sweater, and I'm so happy to finally use that yarn because it was so beautiful, and it was such a shame that it was just kind of sitting and waiting to be used. This one also has a V-neck, which I don't typically make V-necks. I don't know how many V-neck projects I have, not very many. So I'm kind of curious to see how much I like that. I find that like when you have a circular or like a O-neck, it's more wearable, especially if you wear it over things, but it'd be nice to have a V-neck as an option. Celine has a bunch of other beautiful patterns, so definitely go check her out. And I'll note that I've never, like I said, knit any of her stuff before, but I really like the way she lays out her patterns. They're very, very, very intuitive, and there are specific design elements that she's incorporated that make it very easy for the user to read. So for example, there's color coding for the sizes. So instead of having like the brackets, which she still does, and like the commas in between and the bolding of the numbers, she has them color coded, highlighted, so you know exactly like, oh, that's my color, my size. It's really easy to go through and see what stitch counts are needed for your garment size and whatever. And then she also has size equivalent charts which tell you how many stitches you should have at each range, which I haven't needed it very heavily yet because I'm so early on, but I think it will be really beneficial to have like a one place where it tells you like all the things that you should be hitting. It really heavily reminds me of, I can't remember the designer name, but there was a sock designer that I knit one time that also had like these charted like standpoints that were easy to like kind of check through. I'm like, I'm hitting all those numbers, I'm getting all the right like increases and decreases, and I love that. Something else that I'll mention that is interesting, it's not a bad or good thing, is that Celine hosts her test knits on Discord, and she shares her patterns via iCloud, which I have never seen before. My personal preference from the experiences that I've had for test knitting for people is I personally love it when they host things on Slack. I like the different channels and the fact that you can reply to specific messages through threads, so you don't like clutter up like the main feed, but you can see like how conversations are going down. And Google Docs, because I find that Google Docs is a little bit more accessible and people are more used to, I guess, interacting with that. But the iCloud and the Discord has been really interesting. It's not been a bad experience. I personally love Discord just like as a side conversation to have chats with friends, so I'm not upset about that. But yeah, it's really interesting to see all the different options of how people typically like to host test knits. This is a combination that I've never seen before. I'll keep you posted on the progress on that one. I think it will be yet another garment that I won't be able to wear for a while, but that's okay. I am prepping for the fall and I'm really excited. I hope to squeeze in maybe one more summer knit sometime, but we're also in August and I haven't put any thought into that, so maybe not. I don't know. The very last thing that I will mention is some yarn acquisitions. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this a long time ago when I pre-ordered, and this should probably come as no surprise because I love this dyer, and that's Sunday Fiber Co. So I picked up a couple skeins of yarn from her grand palette, her Wes Anderson inspired collection. These are the two. I got 4 of this one to make a sweater, but I'm just gonna show you each skein as an individual. So this one is the Grand Palette's Falkland DK. This is 100% Falkland wool, which is DK weight 3 pi. We got about 250 meters for 100 grams. This is in the color Team Sizu. I will fully admit I haven't seen any Wes Anderson films that I can think of. Maybe the Mr. Fox one, Fantastic Mr. Fox. So I don't actually really know, but these colors really spoke out to me. So this is this beautiful bright red. Honestly, it has a very slight orange undertone. It is so vibrant on camera, oh my goodness. And I want to make a hat. I think a really bright red hat would be fun. Yeah, that's the plan for this one. It's a really beautiful DK weight. I've never worked with Falkland wool before. Falkland? What does that sound wrong? Falkland. I don't know. So we'll see how that knits up. I am worried that the slight orangeness will be a little too much for me, but you know what? It's okay. We're gonna, who cares? If I like it, it doesn't matter. And then this other one is the one that I'm most excited for, and it is the Cory wool, which is 100% Corriedale woolen spun. There's that term again. Sport weight, 2-ply. You get a 450 meters for 100 grams, and this is in her color I Saved Latin. Now, I saw this when she was doing the pre-order, and I just like fell in love. I obsessed over it so much, and I had to get my hands on it. It is this beautiful, like, satiny almost green. It's a little lighter in person. I thought it would be a little deeper, but it's still so lovely. And a lot of the inspo photos she was pulling from was like green velvet, and it's just like so luscious. So I picked up 4 skeins of this. This is like a really interesting wool. I've never worked with it before, so we'll see how it kind of works up. It kind of reads fingering weight with the 450 meters per 100 grams, but because it's woolen spun, it's kind of loftier. I think it's very adjacent to the Brooklyn Tweed loft. Haven't done a direct comparison yet, but my plan is to knit a cable green sweater with this. I have a very specific inspo photo that I need to try to find if I can. I don't remember where I saved it. It's kind of like cable-y, drop shouldery. Haven't decided if I want to go drop shoulder route, but I think this will be so gorgeous for it. And it's so beautiful that I will fully admit I'm definitely in the headspace right now of like, I don't want to knit with it because it's just too beautiful. So yeah, those are the yarns that I picked up from her collection. I love everything she does. I love especially the like colors that she does. She does a lot of beautiful pastel variegated stuff, and you can see that in my Taylor Swift sweater that I made. I also have a bunch of her abalone, which is a really beautiful variegated like pale pastel-y purpley white with a little bit of orange in it, and that's really pretty too. So yeah, love Sunday Fabric Co. Also Canadian, which is love that extra. Okay, that's all I have for you guys today. Before I sign off, I just want to note that just because I've been very productive, I've been knitting a lot, I hope you don't feel the pressure to do so as well. I hope you're taking knitting at whatever pace that you enjoy it at, whether you're getting a lot of stuff done or you're one of those people who like having longer long-term projects that come and go. I also know that sometimes in the summer people drop off of like yarny stuff because it's just not necessarily the time to knit like a sweater, and I totally recognize that. So no pressure from my end. I hope this is just a comforting space to come and craft along with. Also, even if you don't knit, because you don't have to knit, you could sew, you could crochet, you could just watch this for fun. Lastly, I mentioned in my last podcast episode that I posted a reel on Instagram addressing something from my previous podcast episode to that about how I like to join skeins. Someone very kindly reminded me that not everyone has Instagram. So if you don't have Instagram and you wanted to see what I was talking about, I have now posted that as a reel. It's just a little walkthrough in terms of my favorite way to join skeins when I can't use the split splice method. I think it's also called the spit splice method. I think that's kind of gross, but you know, you do what you do. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel, as well as if you want to see more content like this. I post podcasts as well as some other miscellaneous videos every once in a while. Feel free to subscribe so you don't ever miss anything. And with that, I will call it here. So thank you again, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye for now.